There are a few reasons why I chose the Tamron 70-180 for a landscape lens when I'm out and about in Alaska. Today I want to show you a few of those reasons and also give you a few tips on how you can shoot great landscape photos with this lens handheld. The biggest reason I chose the Tamron 70-180 for landscape photography is I do a lot of this stuff on foot, by hand, in small airplanes, on kayaks, and so having a small, lightweight lens that gives me that full zoom range really makes a big difference for me when I'm packing everything on my back and going to locations like this. Something else that is nice about it being smaller and lightweight is it balances really well on the camera. The lens is super easy to hold. It doesn't tip forward or backward. It just basically, that's your center of balance. So it's really easy to shoot handheld because it is lightweight. Now, a lot of people think that because the lens doesn't have stabilization in it, it makes it much more difficult to handheld shoot, but there's a few simple ways that you can overcome that. One is holding the camera with a hand on the camera body, a hand on the lens, and then using a third point of contact, usually your eye cup, to make sure you stabilize the camera well. And doing that, I found that I can shoot down to a shutter speed of 1/30, even down to 1/15, depending on the situation and what I'm shooting, which is enough to give you some decent motion blur in things like water. And there are two more tricks that you can use to get the most stable handheld shots. One is set the 2-second timer delay on this so that you can push the shutter button and then make sure you're good and still when the camera takes a photo. You don't need a 5 or 10-second delay, 2 seconds works great. The other is, when you're getting ready to take a shot, take a deep breath, breathe halfway out, and then push the shutter button and hold your breath for those 3 seconds till after the camera has taken the photo. That'll really help you get a lot more stable handheld shots using a big telephoto lens like this. One of the questions I did have when I first bought this was, would I miss the extra 20 millimeters? And in shooting it with it for a little over a year now, I can say I don't really miss it. I found that in most cases, if I want to get a similar framing to what I would get with 200 millimeters, I really only have to step forward maybe 2 feet, sometimes 3 feet. And while the field of view is still slightly different, I can basically frame up a photo pretty much the way I would have framed it up beforehand and not really miss the extra 20 millimeters. Another reason I really like this lens for landscape and nature work is it has very minimal focus breathing compared to a lot of other lenses that are out there on the market. I really appreciate the fact that I can zoom in, get my focus manually if I want to, and then even mess with the zoom range a little bit, and I won't lose the focus that I had set for the subject I'm trying to capture. For my settings, I generally shoot with an aperture between f9 and f16. That seems to be a real sweet spot for the greatest optical performance with this lens. And it gives you a good amount of sharpness all the way through the photograph, but also gives you some blur with whatever is in your foreground very, very close to the camera lens.